Good morning, ladies. Happy Tuesday. So again, today we're going to be identifying commonalities between historical figures, similar to what we did yesterday. So I'm going to read two stories, identify commonalities, and then read another two short stories to identify commonalities. So, true story number 5 today is Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson Day is a traditional event which occurs annually in Major League Baseball, commemorating and honoring the day Jackie Robinson made his Major League debut as the first African American to play in the league. Everyone on the field wears the number 42 in honor of the great player. During Jackie Robinson's career, he received serious threats against his life. So when the Dodgers came to Cincinnati to play at Old Crosley Field, they had riflemen on the rooftops and on the roof of the laundry building back in left field in case anything got out of hand. Being told of the rifleman's presence, Robinson knew this was a very serious situation. Before the game, the Dodgers held a meeting in the clubhouse. Everyone on the team was understandably quite tense. One of the Dodger team members, Gene Hermansky, suddenly broke the silence by saying, "I've got it." And everybody stopped and said, "What?" Hermansky replied, "We'll confuse them. We'll all wear number 42. Everyone broke out laughing, and it released the team's tension, and they went out and played. But little did they know that there would be a day indeed, like Gene Hermansky, everyone would wear the infamous number 42. Okay, so now let's take a peek at Miss Eleanor Roosevelt, true story number 6. Eleanor Roosevelt was a very shy child by nature, but she had to face many different challenges in her future that she would have never imagined. Eleanor was born in New York City to Elliot Roosevelt, and Anne Hall Roosevelt. She had two brothers alongside a half-brother. Although Eleanor was born into a wealthy family, she had a very difficult childhood, which made her a very insecure child. Eleanor's mother nicknamed her Granny, as she was constantly made to feel ugly as a child, which led to her insecurities about her looks. When Eleanor was 8 years old, she lost her father to illness, and 2 years later her mother passed away as well. Therefore, Eleanor grew up with her grandmother. After her parents' deaths, Eleanor craved for attention. She had very few friends and a lonely childhood, and with only a few friends at school. At the age of 15, Eleanor attended private training by a woman named Marie Souvestre, as she influenced Eleanor to think more independently and gain self-confidence, being proud of who she was on the inside and not just focus on the outside. Down the road, Eleanor would marry one of the most prominent men in our country's history, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. She fought for human and civil rights and an end to poverty her entire adulthood. She was a spokesperson for those who were struggling and less fortunate. One of her most famous quotes sums up her difficult beginnings. "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Okay, so again, same things as yesterday. Your directions for your first two sets of stories. Identify the commonality between the two historical figures below, and be sure to support your thinking with details from the text. Mark the text during your second read of each paragraph to help guide your thinking. So again, when we're identifying shared character trait, you're focusing on the words and actions of the characters to help determine these character traits. So when you're going back to do your second read, maybe underline them or put some notes in the margin to help you kind of figure that out. Number 2, again, is going to be the toughest one, similarity between the stories. You're paying attention to how the stories are being told, the lessons that the readers are learning, the lessons that the main characters are learning, maybe the other people in the story and their influence on the main character. And then number 3 is an opinion question. You have to defend your stance. Who is more impressive to you and why? So again, no incorrect answer here, but you need to make sure that you're backing it up with details. Rap should be used for each of these short response questions. All right, now on to our next two stories. So true story number 7, Benjamin Franklin. To his life's end, Ben Franklin remained a printer and took pride in it. Wherever he lived, in Europe or America, he managed to have a printing press at his disposal. This was no accident. At his last will and testament, written at age 83, the year before he died, began like this: "I, Benjamin Franklin, Philadelphia, printer." However, once Benjamin Franklin became so absorbed in his electricity experiment that he sold his printing business to concentrate on his experiments. There was little doubt that he could have amassed a fortune had he stayed in business, but Ben enjoyed the simple style of living and he had no ambition for an outward display of wealth. Ben Franklin was nearly killed by his early experiments with lightning. He survived only because he luckily didn't receive a strong enough charge. Twice he was knocked senseless. Once when he attempted to treat a paralyzed man with electric shock, and another time preparing to kill a turkey by electric shock. In both cases, Ben managed to take the whole charge through his hands and arms. He described the feeling as an unusual blow through the whole body, from head to foot, after which the first thing I noticed was a violent shaking of my body, while gradually remitting my senses slowly returned. Okay, another familiar man you should know, Cesar Chavez. Remember, we learned about him when we did the Mexican Revolution and started with Esperanza Rising. True story number 8. Cesar Chavez grew up in a small adobe home, the same home in which he was born. His family owned a grocery store and a ranch, but all their land was lost during the Great Depression. The Chavez family faced many hardships in California. As migrant workers, the family would pick peas and lettuce in the winter, cherries and beans in the spring, corn and grapes in the summer, and cotton in the fall. He changed schools a lot. Sometimes Cesar went to a new school for only 1 week before it was time to move again. Cesar and his family were migrant farm workers. They moved from city to city and from farm to farm looking for work. Cesar did not mind moving. He liked being with his family and didn't care where they lived as long as they were together. He didn't, however, like school. The Chavez family spoke Spanish. At school, Cesar was only supposed to speak English. This was hard. He got in trouble any time he spoke Spanish. When Cesar was 15, his dad was hurt in a car accident. He couldn't work and make money for his family. Cesar stopped going to school. He started working as a migrant worker full-time instead. Cesar spent many hours in the hot sun each day. Picking crops made his hands very sore. Sometimes they bled. It made his back sore too. It was hard to bend over all day long. Even though Cesar worked very hard, he did not make very much money. Cesar used to earn 20 cents for each hamper of peas he picked. The hamper weighed 25 pounds. Cesar Chavez spent his entire adulthood fighting for the rights of migrant workers, from organizing labor strikes to hunger strikes. He was adamant that no other child would live the life he led in the fields working for others in hideous living conditions. So again, for these two, for Benjamin Franklin and Cesar Chavez, I'll read your directions again. Identify the commonality between the two historical figures below and be sure to support your thinking with details from the text. Mark up the text during your second read of each paragraph to help guide your thinking. So again, for your shared character trait, you are identifying words and actions of each of these characters and trying to see if that can help you to determine their character trait that they share. Similarity between the stories, again, number 2 is going to be the most challenging. You have to take a look how the story is being told, the lessons the historical figures are learning, the impact that others had on them, or the lesson that the reader is supposed to learn. And then number 3, opinion question, who is more impressive to you and why? So again, no incorrect answer here. You just need to choose one of the historical figures and talk about which one is more impressive to you. Why is that? Use text evidence to support your inferences here. Alrighty, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little assistance for that number 2 because I believe that is the most challenging to just identify another similarity between the stories. So for Jackie Robinson and Eleanor Roosevelt, both were criticized for their appearance. So again, Jackie Robinson for being the only black man in the major leagues at the time, and then Eleanor Roosevelt, she was kind of teased for being unattractive. Um, Second similarity is that both of their actions help support human and civil rights. And then they were, for number 3, they were both considered a minority at their time, and they made a difference. So again, Eleanor Roosevelt being a woman, Jackie Robinson being a man of color at their time, and they both kind of worked through that and made a major difference in our world. Jumping down to Benjamin Franklin and Cesar Chavez. Um, these were a little tougher to maybe identify, so I'm going to give help with that as well. So similarity between the stories. Their actions were done to help others. So think about everything that we use electricity for today, and think about with Cesar Chavez about the migrant workers. We have a lot of background knowledge with that as well about the difficulties and challenges they faced with their working conditions. Advanced thinking for their time. So again, these two historical figures were visionaries. They tried to do better to help others, but again, it was kind of unheard of for their time. And then I think that both stories kind of share a common theme of never giving up, this perseverance theme that we love so much. But Benjamin Franklin almost died a couple times trying to figure out the electricity and use it properly. And Cesar Chavez worked for pennies to be able to feed his family. And then when different hardships came to his family, he really stepped up and made sure that other children wouldn't have to go through what he did, and worked really hard for those working conditions for migrant workers. So now, similar to yesterday, I'm going to just give you a little video on one of our historical figures for today, and I chose Cesar Chavez. Enjoy.